Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this very special series of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's guide to all things commercial real estate. I am your host, Shanti Ryle, Director of Content at Crexi, and this is the Women of Influence series, delivering next-level insights and expertise live from GlobeSt's Women of Influence Conference. And today, we are thrilled to sit down with Skylar Jones. A little bit about our guest. With almost 10 years of experience in the commercial real estate industry, specializing across multifamily, retail, and office sectors, Skylar currently focuses on leasing open-air, mixed-use shopping centers and has a comprehensive exposure to a wide array of asset classes. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from the University of Maryland Global Campus. In her role at Kimco, where she's been for 3.5 years, she's responsible for placemaking, strategic merchandising, and negotiating leases with qualified prospects to fill vacancies in her shopping centers in the Washington, D.C. metro area. She closely collaborates with her regional leadership and executive team to drive strategic initiatives. Her expertise lies in qualitative merchandising, where she's particularly passionate about creating vibrant, engaging retail environments, especially within lifestyle and luxury/high street retail assets. She is also the chair of Kimco's Empowering Women to Lead employee resource group, where they collectively endeavor to support and encourage women to advance their skills and leadership potential through connection, mentorship, collaboration, and discussion. I love it. Skylar, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Shanti. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
We're so happy to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm great. It's beautiful weather here in Tahoe. Everline Resort is amazing, spectacular. I'm just super excited and thrilled to be here. How about you? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I got my coffee in. We're, again, at this beautiful resort. The sun is shining. We're at the very beginning of this conference, which has a lot of exciting programming in store, a lot of really fascinating women here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so very, very excited to, just keep having these conversations with powerhouse ladies like yourself.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun whirlwind. I'm super excited to see what the next few days have in store.
Yeah, me too. So kind of diving into things, I know we covered a bit about your background, but I'd love to know more about how you got started in commercial real estate. You know, what was the allure for you? How did you first find yourself in it? You clearly are passionate about it. So can you tell us a little bit more about, where you came from and how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a total accident. I originally was not supposed to be in commercial real estate. I started out at the tender age of 17.
Whoa.
Yes. So I was originally, I tell this story all the time just because it's so funny how full circle life works sometimes.
Sure.
But I was working at Red Lobster and I wanted a half-day schedule. I was a senior in high school. I wanted a half-day schedule and I got tired of serving Cheddar Bay biscuits after school. So
They're
I
so
went.
good, though.
They
No, I'm
are
kidding.
very good, but no shade to Red Lobster. If you know, you know. But I went into like my internship coordinator's office one day and I was like, listen, I need a new job. Do you have anything for me? And they were like, well, there's a pile of papers on that desk over there. This is back when people actually printed out job descriptions and different things like that. They were like, go ahead and grab whatever, whichever interests you. I grabbed the first one and it happened to be an office assistant role, an administrative assistant role at First Washington Realty in Bethesda, Maryland. Oh. And so when I heard, First Washington Realty, I'm thinking, oh, like houses, like, like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know anything about it. Right. Exactly. Right. But way before that, I'm like, cool, like, let me see what it's about. And so I interviewed and they were like, yeah, so we own and operate shopping centers. And I'm like, cool, are you paying more than $7.25 an hour? If so, I can do whatever you want me to do. So, basically they were like, can you type? Can you file? Can you email? Can you? And I was like, I can do anything you want. And I started there and I never looked back. It's so full circle because back then I wanted to do journalism and mass communications. So I ended up switching. And I had I wouldn't say a brief stint, but I did do a little bit of multifamily leasing with a new development shortly after leaving First Washington. But I always knew that I wanted to come back to commercial real estate because I just was like, it's so dynamic. There's so many different sectors. There's so I knew my heart was drawing me back to commercial. So during the pandemic, I was doing a little bit of office property management and I was like, this is great, but I kind of, my personality, I like people, I like relationships. Let me see, I miss leasing, but I don't really want to deal with people at home. So I was like,
Sure.
let me see what maybe retail has. And thankfully I stumbled across Kimco. And at the time, Kimco, this is the short version of a very long-winded story, but Kimco actually had a formal leasing associate program where they were trying to, source new talent and develop a pipeline of future leasing directors. So I started at Kimco in 2021, and it's been a blast ever since. So,
Amazing. Yeah, and you got to dive right into retail, and it sounds like kind of the more glamorous, is that a word? The glamorous side of retail.
I like glamoury. That's cute. We can coin that.
Yeah, the glamoury side of retail. But yeah, so I'm curious, kind of as you were navigating through all these different sectors and parts of the commercial real estate space, did you have any, did you experience any like maybe challenges or roadblocks early on that turned into like really important lessons for you? Or, maybe you're like, oh, wow, I really hate that this challenge is in my way, but then like turned into another opportunity that you maybe weren't looking for. Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, I could probably write a book, but but I would say, the overarching challenge for me has been twofold, right? Obviously, there is a big generational gap in the commercial real estate industry, and I am on the younger end of that spectrum. So it's been a challenge it's been a challenge being, young and a woman. Moreover, an African-American woman, just because of kind of like the historical lack of diversity in the industry. Yeah. So the challenging part has been trying to establish relationships with tenants who have longstanding relationships with like my colleagues, and, getting them to gain a sense of trust with me and understand that, hey, I am qualified to do this. But to take it a step further, even more so, the challenge lies within myself and reminding myself like, hey, like, let's silence the imposter syndrome. You've worked your behind off to get to this point. You're capable, you're worthy, you're deserving of being here. Because sometimes we forget like how qualified we actually are until we like look at it on paper. But the challenging part has been more so kind of reminding myself who I am in those moments where people, look at me as an anomaly. And, but I'm a testimony that you can be successful at reminding yourself who you are and remembering who you are, because those same people, once we cross that barrier, they tend to really trust me and enjoy my presence and enjoy having me in their corner. And they understand like, listen, I'm not just here to make a deal with you. Like, I want to serve you. I want to cultivate a relationship. I want you to have that same long-standing relationship that you did with my colleague beforehand. So
absolutely. Yeah. Amen to that, honestly. And it sounds like, you had a lot of opportunities to kind of test that out.
Yes,
throughout
absolutely.
your career too. So I'm curious, do you have any maybe like favorite transactions that go along with those lessons learned? Or maybe, you had a mentor that kind of showed you like, don't undersell yourself, or remember that you're a boss. Like, any stories like that?
There's so there's such a long list of women who I can speak about, really, who kind of exude that kind of boss babe mentality when it comes to being in the industry.
Plenty here.
Yes, I was gonna say there's plenty here. Carmen Decker is one of them. She's the president of the Western region at Kimco. So shout out to you, Carmen. But I would say, it started back with one of my first managers, actually, when I did multifamily. And she and I shared a similar pathway. She was like, I didn't get to go away to a 4-year university. I started working straight out of high school, and she worked her way up from a leasing consultant all the way to a district manager at Camden Property Trust. And one thing she always instilled in me was to own it. Her name is Ashley Smith. But she actually always told me to own it, like good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. Own your wins, own your losses, own your mistakes, and show up and be present, and embrace learning and embrace meeting new people and building relationships. But I'm trying to think of like favorite transactions. I have so many. The one that sticks out in my mind was one of the ones that I did at Kentlands Market Square with a woman named Jody Rappaport from My Big Find. She was transitioning from a temporary space to a more long-term permanent leasing space. And I saw a lot of myself in her. It was her first time opening up a storefront, a brick and mortar storefront. And she was just so adamant on, I don't want to do something that doesn't feel right. I'm all about doing the right thing, doing what feels right. And that's something that I abide by personally and professionally.
Sure.
And she just the way she advocated for herself really throughout that process was so inspiring. But we ended up getting the deal done. She ended up getting the exact space that she wanted that felt right for her. And it also showed me like, oh wow, I actually can close the deal and do leasing. It was like a cold dark shell space too. And so that was also intimidating, you know, just having someone who's never done this before, both she and I, and us kind of learning the process together and executing on it. So
just figuring it
out.
You gotta have the wherewithal to like take those steps
Absolutely.
and risks and find what you need to know to do it.
Absolutely.
So major props to you.
And you also have to bet on yourself and not be afraid to bet on yourself. And, you know, when everyone else counts you out, just to continue to persevere and, you know, make stuff happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Just make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So kind of like tying into that, you know, you work on with Kimco's Empowering Women to Lead group, which I'm sure is super rewarding.
Yes, it absolutely is.
So I'm curious, you know, just based on your experience, you know, working commercial real estate, working with young women in commercial real estate and helping them grow into themselves and into their careers, how do you think, from both a generational perspective and diversity perspective, the industry can be more opening to adding new people to its ranks? Essentially.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And, you know, the beauty of our ERG is that it's not just young people, right? I'm working with a diverse mix of women, you know, women who have 30 years of experience, women who have a year of experience, women who are somewhere in between. So, the most fulfilling part about the ERG is really empowering each woman to be a leader within her own right? Because we all have a little bit of leadership in us, whether we realize it or not. But I think the way that the industry can continue to cultivate the next generation of talent is by implementing programs like that, where you are making it your mission and strategically bridging the gap between the generations and introducing new talent and empowering people to mentor, you know, associates, whether it's new or, you know, your existing associates that are inside the company right now. I think one of the most important pieces of company culture is pouring into your existing talent and nurturing their strengths and their areas of opportunity and pouring into them. One of the things that we're working on in our ERG right now is taking the Clifton Strengths Assessment, so we can figure out what everyone's strengths are and really, you know, figuring out what we can own and where we can improve. But yeah, I think that's the biggest part is really making an effort. I mean, I'm here with Anita Garrett and Carrie Apicella over there. They are also ERG leaders, and they, so shout out to you two. But, you know, we just all are really passionate about making sure we foster a safe space and empower people to grow and learn from each other. And I think it's important for companies to continue to do that, because people want to feel like they have a sense of community and like they're like they matter and like their voice matters. But people also want to continue to learn. You don't want to feel like you hit a roadblock in your career and that you're stuck, right? So it's finding new ways to be creative and nurturing people's talents, I think, is the best way to cultivate a future pipipeline for sure.
It's investing in your future as a company too.
Yes,
so totally
absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of investing, even though you're more on the leasing side, that was my attempt at a segue.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about it.
So getting more into the nuts and bolts of the commercial real estate sector, you know, based on your specific purview, which right now is leasing and retail and doing that interesting, you know, mixed use, which is its own bag of a sector,
absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah.
What's kind of your bird's eye view of trends happening right now in the sector, whether they're more long tail, whether they're, you know, short term?
Yeah.
What are you seeing happening?
So I think, you know, it's pretty much, it's funny because I was having this conversation last night at the bar with some other ladies that are here, and it's pretty the same, like, general consensus. There's really low inventory but high demand, and retail is nowhere near dead. I mean, we are alive, we're thriving, and we're well. We're running out of space to lease at Kimco, actually.
Yeah.
So it
Good
puts
problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. It puts us in a great position to be really strategic and choosy about the uses that we want in our shopping centers, because, you know, historically our bread and butter is grocery anchored shopping centers and you know, attracting that essentials need-based customer. But now, as far as trends are concerned, we're seeing more activity from health and wellness, from fitness, from entertainment, you know, even like veterinarians are becoming really active in the market. But people are starting to realize, okay, like these shopping centers are more than just your regular strip centers or your neighborhood centers. They need to become destinations and hubs, you know, one-stop shops where people can live, work, drink, eat, gather, and play. So that's been the biggest thing is, you know, just seeing these emerging brands, especially too internationally, also tap into the U.S. markets and try to establish a brand presence in some of our shopping centers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So a lot of people from overseas are like,
Yes.
we want to get into
Yes.
these cultural centers. It
Yes.
sounds like.
And a lot of e-commerce and like omni-channel brands are, you know, starting to emerge and establish a brick and mortar presence, which is really exciting. I'm from DC, so I happen to like just, you know, Skims just opened their Georgetown location, and I went on the first day and watched the grand opening, and it just was so inspiring to see a brand that, you know, really was an online brand. I don't think anyone ever thought that Skims would be, you know, in a retail store, but just seeing the excitement and all of the people, you know, making TikToks and making content in the store, because it's not just going to a store and buying shapewear, right? Now it's an experience. Now we're going to go make a trip out of it and go to Georgetown, and we're going to go to Georgetown Cupcake. We're going to go to Skims, and then we might eat at Sequoia. So it's all
Sounds
about
like a great day.
Yes, exactly. And that's what people want right now, you know, with the world is, you know, as hard as things are, people just want to have a great day and build memories and experiences with their loved ones. So yeah, I think that's the big trend now is reimagining retail for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned you know, omni-channel coming on quite strong, which I think makes a ton of sense because everybody went crazy with online shopping during the pandemic. Am I speaking for myself here?
Yes.
But,
yes and no. I did too. I definitely did too.
But yeah, I'm kind of curious, how are you seeing, you know, you mentioned Skims, but how else are you seeing kind of like those retail concepts integrate the e-commerce and brick and mortar aspect of these businesses? And then what kind of space do those businesses need? Like, how are they thinking about expanding their footprint?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So it's twofold, right? Because a lot of you want a brick and mortar location to have a store, an in-person presence, but a lot of these retailers are also maximizing their space and utilizing it as fulfillment centers as well. So, you know, historically, someone who, you know, I don't know, take for example, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like a Target, for example. Sure. You know, historically, they might have used a certain amount of GLA, but now they need extra. They need double that so that they can utilize the back of house for more fulfillment. And they're also activating like their drive up ordering, which I don't know about you, but I have to use drive up ordering at Target. If not, I will go in there and buy I will buy the entire store. Dangerous. Yeah. But also to take it a step further, let's talk about Ulta, right? Ulta and their partnership with Target and how they've activated, you know, a space outside of Target's cosmetics section. I believe it's only maybe they might be utilizing 250 square feet, but now I can go to Ulta and Target at
or Sephora
or
and Kohl's,
yes,
right?
exactly. That's another perfect example. So one-stop shop, two birds, one stone. I mean, it's genius.
And I'm sure it's a fun riddle to solve in terms of like getting those two tenants to talk to each other and think about how they want that to work and what the experience is. But it sounds like it's a lot more, even more so than it already was, like what is the customer gonna love and remember and feel when they come to this place. Exactly.
And for Ulta, I think it was a great strategic move because, you know, their footprint, they're only here in the US, whereas Sephora has an international footprint. So from a competitive landscape, I think it was a great strategic move because, you know, before I really, and this is no shade to Ulta. I love Ulta now, okay? I'm a beauty insider through and through with Sephora too, but I love both. I do both. I mix and match. It's all about convenience. But before, exactly. But before, I would get a little bit overwhelmed when I went into an Ulta because Ulta was like 10,000 square feet. And I would be like, oh my God, this is really like a beauty emporium. Whereas Sephora was more so between like 3,500 and 5,000 square feet. So I was like, okay, this is a little bit more dialed back and not as overwhelming. So I think it's great to have that even smaller footprint inside of Target because now it's like, okay, I have everything I need in this one little spot. If I need a MAC lip liner, I'm a MAC chestnut girly through and through. So
I love chestnut.
yes, love. You need a brown lip liner? Chestnut is that girl.
This is a very niche podcast episode, but we're making it work.
Yes. So yeah, we're influencing, right?
Exactly.
So sorry, going off on a tangent, but as you can see, I'm really passionate about beauty in that sector within retail. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah.
I love it. So I'm curious, kind of looking ahead, you know, I want to be mindful of your time because we have a lot of exciting programming coming up at this conference. So what predictions do you have for retail leasing or retail in general, kind of the latter half of this year going into 2025? Do you see more construction on the horizon? It sounds like it's needed.
Yeah.
Do you see more brands like playing together the way Kohl's, Sephora, et cetera, are doing? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, big picture, I think the biggest trend that we'll see is owners and developers getting very creative with reimagining the product that we already have here, right? Because it's very expensive to come out of ground right now.
Yeah.
Construction costs are through the roof. Interest rates are really high, as we all know, and inflation continues to be on the rise. But now I think, from an ownership perspective, being particularly creative about activating the space that you already do have and putting some lipstick on it and reimagining it and turning it into something that people can come to your shopping center and stay for a good time and a long time. I think we'll see a lot of that, especially in the mixed use sector. You and I know very well, as I don't want to assume, but as millennial Gen Zers, that the housing market, it's not what it used to be, right? And so there's a strong need for more flexibility. So more multifamily you'll probably see on the horizon. We have quite a few properties entitled and in the pipeline for development at Kimco. And there's a certain standard to achieve, right? People don't just want a garden style apartment where they can come and go to sleep and go to work the next day. They want somewhere where they have a rooftop heated saltwater pool and a state-of-the-art gym with TRX and Peloton, but they also might want first level retail where they can go to the urgent care or go to the vet and go grab sushi with a friend while they're there. So I think a lot of mixed use is in our future for retail for the rest of the year and beyond, for sure.
You heard it first here, folks.
Don't say I didn't tell you so.
I love it.
Yeah,
so,
mixed use and lifestyle. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Us. Really, really appreciate you sitting down. I know, it flew by. I wish we had longer to talk, but I would love to leave our audience with, where can they get in touch with you if they want to connect, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
have anything to share?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Skylar Jones. That's Skylar. People love to spell it with an E. E is cute too, but it's A. And then on Instagram at Sky Limit Lifestyle is where I have a lot of my CRE content. So yeah,
I love it.
Thanks so much for having me, Shanti. I really appreciate it.
This was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
We'll
we got to do it again
off
soon.
The mic for
yes,
sure.
for sure.
But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one in our Women of Influence series. Visit www.crexi.com/podcast and you can get the very next episode delivered straight to your inbox when you sign up for our newsletter. You can also find us on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Crexi for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.
Bye, everybody.